You've got lust in your eyes and your black heart for Elizabeth. With those words, Macho Man Randy Savage wagered his WWF Championship reign of 1 year against former champion Hulk Hogan. While the Mega Powers exploding angle was probably the best long-form story WWE ever did, much of the rest of the WrestleMania card went cartoony. Don Muraco, Rick Steamboat, Harley Race were replaced with evil prison guards, fun-loving brutes from New Zealand, and masked marvels with furry capes. It was a bit of an odd duck. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 fascinating facts about WrestleMania 5. Number 10, Ted Turner wanted to run NWA Wrestle War opposite WrestleMania 5. You may be thinking, haha, sit the down, NWA, but hear me out. Early that year, in February, McMahon planned to run a 3-hour episode of primetime wrestling opposite NWA's Chi-Town Rumble pay-per-view. Cross at this, the new owner of the company, Ted Turner, fired back by plotting to hold Wrestle War on April 2nd, the night of WrestleMania 5. At the time, Turner had deep broadcast connections and actually had the drop on McMahon in terms of getting cable companies to side with him. Furious, McMahon lowered his demand for a cut of pay-per-view revenue, significantly lowering WWF's profits in order to get cable outlets to choose to show WrestleMania 5 over Wrestle War, which Turner then chose to hold in May instead, running a free Clash of Champions show against Mania 5. Shots fired. Number 9, Donald Trump fought to allow satellite owners to see the show. To combat pay-per-view privacy, WWF was looking to block satellite dish access to Mania 5. This would, for example, stop bars airing the event to more than just a handful of people at one time. Someone who took an opposing stance to WWF's concern was one of their more prolific celebrity friends, one whose name was plastered all over the pay-per-view. The future President of the United States publicly stated that he supported the idea of satellite owners being allowed to see Mania 5, forcing Vince's hand. Naturally, with Trump sponsoring the event and with it taking place in Trump Plaza / not Trump Plaza Boardwalk Hall, wider access to the event provided more exposure to his casino and his personal brand in general, which is savvy if nothing else. Number 8, it set a record at the time for highest gate. A number like 1.6 million might be peanuts for a latter-day WrestleMania, but in 1989, that sort of scratch was a big deal. The fact that WrestleMania 5 made 1.6 million in advance ticket sales was the sort of news that would have McMahon masturbating with both hands onto a rare Argentinian steak. When all was said and done, WrestleMania 5 wound up with 1.7 million at the box office, topping WrestleMania 3 by more than $100,000. Even though the sizes of the crowds were staggeringly different, WrestleMania 5 charged way more per ticket, while 2 years earlier, tickets were cheaper as a means of selling out the massive Silverdome. Number 7, Shawn Michaels was severely hungover. At the age of 23, the future Heartbreak Kid had a reputation of being a real party boy pachisi. He and Rocker's partner Marty Jannetty looked the part of the two fun-loving hooligans that enjoyed fast times, fast boats, and fast meals. I don't know what I'm saying. Michaels recalled that the night before Mania, he had a fight with his then-wife Teresa and then stormed off to the establishment's bar with Jannetty, drinking until 4 in the morning on WrestleMania Sunday. By his account, Michaels had only gotten about 4 hours of sleep. He also admits to popping energy pills and chugging down plenty of coffee to get himself in working shape. Naturally, very few noticed he was off his game because he's Shawn Michaels and he's insufferably good at what he does. Number 6, Mr. Perfect debuted his singlet at WrestleMania 5. The shoulder strap tights were such an identifiable part of Kurt Hennig's wrestling image that it's kind of hard to picture him without the get-up. WrestleMania 5 was Mr. Perfect's third pay-per-view appearance with WWE, and in the first two, he wore generic short trunks that did very little to help him stand out from the pack. Commentators Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura did their part to draw attention to Perfect's new attire, which Ventura erroneously referred to as Olympican. Right. So began a very successful look that set him apart from even the most colourful of talents on the company's impressive roster of the day. Number 5, Roddy Piper's appearance was initially a one-shot deal. What's often misunderstood regarding the 1989 return of the Hot Rod to the WWF fold is the idea that WrestleMania 5 was the beginning of his comeback. Yes, it was the first televised appearance for the company in 2 years, but it wouldn't be for another month that Piper officially rejoined the WWF roster. Until then, Piper fielded offers from both Vince's company and WCW, trying to work out the best possible deal for himself. McMahon won, and soon Piper was back on the house show circuit working with Ted DiBiase on a run through California. Number 4, Rick Martel was nearly denied entry into the US. One of the more memorable occurrences on WrestleMania 5 was the dissolution of Strikeforce. Rick Martel was accidentally struck by Tino Santana as partner. Martel then deserted him, leaving Santana to get pounced on by the Brainbusters. The angle was well executed and breathed life into Martel, who found his calling as a preening arsehole soon to be known as the Model. As it turns out, there was very real danger of the angle not taking place. French-Canadian Martel had found it really difficult to get back into the States in time for WrestleMania, having to work out visa issues. Fortunately, everything was settled in the nick of time, and the heel turn was able to take place without a hitch. Number 3, Bobby Heenan was legitimately injured by the Ultimate Warrior. There have been many stars of yesteryear that had little patience for the Warrior for one reason or another. Heenan's made his feelings known about the face-painted muscle man, dismissing him as a buffoon with no idea what he was doing in the ring. After all, the brain has some insight into what Warrior could do between the ropes based on first-hand experience. When Heenan aided Rick Rude in his upset victory over IC champ Warrior, the post-match angle was to see Warrior assault the manager in an act of riled-up vengeance. Sure enough, Warrior picked Heenan up into his trademark gorilla press, but dropped him awkwardly. Heenan's neck had been bothering him for years, and the fall only exacerbated the residual pain he felt until he finally had to have much-needed surgery in the mid-90s. Number 2, WWF snuck a 900 number commercial onto Clash of the Champions. More than likely you've seen TNA commercials during episodes of Raw before. All is fair in love and war, that's fine. And nobody seemed to love harassing the competition more than Vincent K. McMahon and WWF, as the 1980s territorial conquest proved. When WCW ran a free Ric Flair-Ricky Steamboat 2 out of 3 Falls match for the Championship of the World on cable opposite WrestleMania 5, McMahon struck back. The block of commercials after the match on TBS included one paid for by WWF, promoting a 900 number that you could call to obtain WrestleMania results. You know those numbers where you pay by the minute. It wasn't like there was widespread internet for getting the results back then, so if you wanted to know who won Hogan versus Savage, you had to fork over some cash to Uncle Vinny. And number 1, Savage lost the belt despite selling out arenas as a heel champion. In hindsight, it's hard to envision WrestleMania 5 without Hogan standing tall. It's a WWE way most of the time to give its audience a happy ending that fits the story they want to tell. Hogan felling Savage to recapture the gold was as inevitable as the sunrise, but there were plenty who argued that Savage should have retained the belt, perhaps with a DQ finish, as it made good business sense. After Macho Man turned on Hogan, the shows headlined by Savage in the ensuing weeks sold out, whether he was working heel versus heel matches with Bad News Brown or champion versus champion bouts with Warrior. Boston, St. Louis, Chicago, San Francisco, and New York are just some of the cities where the detestable Savage proved to be a true money-spinning bastard. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.
Monday, March 6th, live from Newcastle, and free on YouTube. Drew Galloway will defend his WCPW championship against the aerial assassin, Will Ospreay. And the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, will defend his WCPW Internet Championship. WCPW proudly presents Exit Wounds. Monday, March 6th, 7:30, 2:30 Eastern. Tickets still available at wc.pw.